Yeah.
Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I'm your host, Edward L. Fairley, the one who loves to serve you food for thought, accompanied by my wonderful, lovely co host, Mrs. Charlene, the one who loves to serve food from a food truck. We decided to combine our worlds to serve you love from a podcast. With that being said, are you ready to serve the people, Miss Charlene?
I am. How about you, Edward?
I am. So, what is on the topic menu for today?
Well, we're gonna today we're gonna talk about in-laws and relationship expectations with spouses. What do you think of that?
Okay, interesting. Let's do it.
All right. So I gotta tell you a story. We'll start here. This is about my mother-in-law and my husband and I. And my husband and I have been together for 24 years this year, and so therefore I've known my
Congratulations.
mother-in-law. Thank you. Therefore, I've known my mother-in-law for that long. This is a relationship that was tenuous at first. She did not like me right away. It took a good 5 to 10 years for her to even kind of come around. And then since then, we haven't had a problem. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, she ended up having a stroke. And there are different kinds of strokes. This one didn't affect her mobility, but it's called aphasia. And that type of stroke affects the brain and words. So she can communicate, but you really got to know her, and the words that she says are going to come across weird. So, for
Okay.
anybody who hasn't come across this, it might be she might want to tell you, "How is your day today?" or ask you, "How is your day today?" It might come across as window paint with the car day, and it just doesn't make
Oh, wow.
sense. But she
Okay.
knows what she's trying to say.
Oh,
She also knows when she's saying the wrong words, and so then she can get very flustered.
that's
So
that.
she'll
Yeah.
start, it's kind of a spiral.
Yeah.
This is a woman who has been known her whole life as what I call a verbal vomiter. I mean, when she gets talking, you don't get a word in edgewise. So
Okay.
it's extra frustrating for her because the one thing she loved doing
Let's talk.
now is the biggest challenge that she has.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I said all that to share with you. She's got caregivers, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. She lives with them, and they take care of her. And they just went on a cruise last week. And you know, Sandy, my mother-in-law, can't be left alone because while she can take care of herself, she can't call 911 and communicate. She can call
Mm,
911,
yeah.
but she
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
communicate. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So the family that stayed behind took turns watching her. And for my husband and I, we've got a full house here, and we've got a lot going on with the truck this week. Excuse me. So we were not able to stay at her place, so we brought her over here. She did
Got it.
not want this. There was nothing. We've had this plan for months. She kept telling my sister-in-law she doesn't want to do it. Um, I don't. We skip way ahead. My brother, excuse me, my brother-in-law did what he could to try to get her calmed down, stayed with her when he could this week. But he has a full-time job. So the long and the short is, on Friday, my husband goes to pick up his mother, and she tells him, like point blank, she tells him she made it clear she does not want to do this. She is not looking forward to the weekend. She doesn't even want to come over. And this was before they left her driveway. So
Yeah.
my husband was like, right, cool. Well, here we go. So he drove her
Exactly.
over. I mean, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I have never seen her so uncomfortable in all the time that I knew her that first night here. And with aphasia and also with her personality, um, and my particular understanding of human behavior and brains, it became an interesting experience where I was able to tell her that night, like, let's just take a breath, calm down, because the more stressed she is, the worse the words get.
Yeah.
So she was able to do that, but it was just a very, very awkward weekend. So we
Okay.
did what we could. And then come Sunday morning, this was the day that my husband was supposed to take her home in the afternoon. So it's Sunday morning, and we have a thing where, if we're both awake in bed, I get up and cuddle with him, and we just talk about the day or the upcoming week, and it's very nice. Usually,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really sweet. Well, that morning, after having spent all weekend with her, knowing how uncomfortable she was, I wanted to suggest to my husband that maybe he bring her home a little earlier. The thing is, Sandy, so we do have a camera for her in the common areas, not in her bedroom or bathroom, but she knows enough that she can be home for 2 or 3 hours, and it's fine. And people need a break. So I started with, you know, regarding your mom this morning, what do you think if you, and he immediately cut me off and he went, honey, stop, just stop. Now, I would love to tell you that I reacted in a mature, emotionally sound way, but I don't want to lie to you. So I go from like all nice and cuddly to like penguin pose, stiff. Like I'm like, and in my head I'm like, I know this man did not just honey me about his mother. I know that did not just happen. And so I was like, okay, but you didn't even let me finish. She goes, because I don't want to hear it. Now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get up, go pee, take a shower. So I get up to go to bed, and he asked me, so what are you mad at me now? And I stopped and looked over at him like, yes, actually, I'm quite pissed. Since you're asking, let's just make sure we're clear about the matter.
Mm.
And you cut me off. You didn't even listen. And he was like, fine, what were you about to say? And I said, I was about to suggest that you bring her home a couple hours earlier because I know her routine. She wants to do her laundry. She wants to get out her game books, and she just wants some quiet before her granddaughter comes over today. And what is the harm in that? And he's like, nope, absolutely not. I told my sister that this is the plan, and I'm sticking to it. I went, okay, no problem, fine. So we get downstairs. My mother-in-law ends up sleeping in. I'm preparing her breakfast or getting ready to. I was gonna I had several things to do that morning, but I put it all aside because I just didn't know what time she was going to come down. And with it being difficult for her to communicate with me, it's actually extra hard for her to communicate with my husband because the two of them have a dynamic, and they have forever, that they're not really patient with each other. She gets talking too much. My husband barely says 3 words on a good day to anybody that's not me, and it's just not a great combination with the way that she is now. So I put aside things, wait for her to come down, and my husband's down, and I decide, you know what, today is just it's just not a day I want to carry a grudge. There's too much to do. And so I take a breath and I think, well, I got my next podcast episode with brother, so that's good. And what would he say right now? And I went to my husband and I said, all right, listen, and I did change my tone. I apologize for the way I came at you this morning. Obviously, that was not, you were not, I didn't ensure that you were open and willing to hear my thoughts on it. I don't know that I said it just like that. I'm probably being more nice now, like more eloquent now. And to give him credit, well, because what I said was, and the thing is, your mom, we know your mom hates it here. She doesn't hate us. She just hates the situation and she doesn't want to be here. And I get it. And I actually was trying to have her back. And he said, I know, but I made my sister a promise. And he said, I get that, but there's some wiggle room here. There was some stuff that happened while they were gone that his sister didn't know about, and we took care of it. They were on a cruise. His sister obviously trusts him enough with their mother to allow him to make what I'd call executive decisions. So here is the question that I have for you. Oh, let me finish the story. We did end up, she came
Yeah.
down, made her breakfast. She did say that I made her eggs exactly right. Thank God, because I have a hard time. Sometimes I break the yolks and I don't mean to. So she said that. She ate. I offered, did she want help in the shower? She said no. And then my husband was able to bring her home at an hour earlier than planned. But here's my question for you.
Okay.
Do you believe that conflict is healthy in relationships? And if so, what separates productive conflict from toxic conflict? And I'm going to light my clove.
Ah, that's a wonderful question, actually.
Mm,
I'll start with the short answer. Conflict is definitely healthy in a relationship. You don't get depth in a relationship without conflict. Matter of fact, you don't get trust in a relationship without conflict. And what I mean by that is when I start a new relationship, this is going to sound crazy. When I start a new relationship, I don't try to intentionally start a conflict or disagreement, but I look for an opportunity to disagree.
mm,
Now, the reason why I do that is, especially in the beginning of a relationship, if I agree with you on everything that you say to me, there's no way that you can trust that I'm being honest.
fair. Yeah.
So if I find an opportunity to say that I don't agree with something, then you know I will if I don't agree with something.
Hmm.
So now we have now created a sense of trust because I don't just say yes to everything.
I know
I
that's
don't
true.
say yes. I don't just say no to everything. So now you
Yeah.
know that my response or responses are honest. They are my what people call their truth, what I believe, and I'm not just saying things to appease you because I like you. I will never do that. So I say all that to say conflict is healthy when it's not intentional, but it's honest because it gives an opportunity for the other person to understand a perspective about you that they did not know. This is where the concept of common sense gets shattered when it comes to conflict. Oftentimes, it's the things that we don't discuss and we just respond because we assume, based off of this fictitious thing called common sense, that it's already understood. So, going back to the story, what the audience did not hear but I heard very clearly is that there's things or feelings about his mom that aren't so great when it comes to you, based
Mm.
off of y'all's past. The reason
Like,
why I know this to be true without me having to ask a question is because he assumed that when you brought his mother up, that it was going to be a negative thing that followed what you said afterward.
yeah.
If there was typically a positive thing that was said about his mother when you brought up his mom, he would have been open to hear what it is that you had to say by the time that you wanted to share what you were going to share when y'all were cuddly.
Jeez, brother,
So,
you're kind of hitting me right here, right now. I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah, there you
I
go
mean,
again. Yep.
I'm just listening. So,
Yeah.
so he's responding to a past that he assumed was the present, and that wasn't the case. But he had enough data for that to be a valid response or valid assumption, even though it was off. But because things died down and you were able to share what actually happened, he actually learned, oh, she was trying to look out for me. But another thing that I learned in this short period of time and short part of storytelling is your husband is a very, very strong and stern man of integrity.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
What I
Yeah.
mean by that is if he says he's going to do something, that is what is going to be done. You can change all the dynamics of what is happening. What he said, he stands by. I don't know if your husband doesn't have any credentials, degrees, or whatever, but I know if there was one, his word is that.
Mm,
And that means
yeah.
everything to him. So if he told his sister that this is what's going to happen, even though the things around that actual situation that she didn't know about could change that, he's going to do everything in his power to be loyal to his word. Because if anything to him, that's all he has. Which
Yeah.
also to me tells me that your husband can be very sharp in his responses, be it good or bad, to where it can be
Keep
painful
going.
because because he's adamant that who he is to be received whether you like it or not, but that is his truth and he stands by it. So, knowing that if you really pay attention to that, it would actually make things easier to navigate when it comes to him. I also want to share how it is very hard to have something and then lose it as opposed to never having it to where you don't know that you lost it. Now I'm pivoting. I'm talking about mom now. That is
Mm,
tough. And then for you to say that that was her go to. words, be it good or bad when someone received it, that was her thing to her. And for her to be robbed of that and to be aware of it being taken from her, that has got to be devastating to the point of, as you shared, it's not her on certain things. The essence of her is there, but that spiral to have the ability, I'll put it to you this way. Because communication in itself, the statistics, and I don't typically lean towards statistics, but the statistics of people in the prison system, those who are high in violence, they have a very, very high rate of not being able to read. Now, I say that intentionally because to not be able to communicate what you feel or thought because you lack words is frustrating. Let's think about children. Let's think about babies. In order for them to get stuff, they have to cry and wah and do all of these things to get a response. So, even as a human being, for you not to be able to say what you want or for someone to get what it is that you feel, because you cannot conceptualize and contextualize it through words, that's very frustrating, which is why we typically start yelling in an argument, because what we're saying is, though I have not mastered the ability to have a translator translate my feelings into words so that you can understand my thoughts and my feelings, I am stuck with you not getting it. So I'm frustrated. So I'm yelling louder in a different language that you can't speak, with the expectation that my volume is going to help you understand something that you can't understand in a whisper. That's
Wow.
that's
Repeat that last one
frustrating.
again.
I don't even know what I
Volume.
said,
You said
but
something about you
but you
can't
basically
understand in
you're
volume.
trying to get someone to understand what it is that you're saying in volume that they could not even understand in a whisper. But you
Yes,
think
yes.
because you raise your volume that another person will understand it. So if I speak Spanish only and you are yelling in English what it is that I'm trying to get you to say, even slowing it down, you're
Yeah.
yelling and slowing it down, and you're getting frustrated that they don't comprehend what it is you're saying. It doesn't matter the volume. You need a translator, period. So now you need to start either working on your charades or you're
Yeah.
going to have to start finding different means of communicating to see if they can understand, or you're going to have to find a translator, someone that actually speaks Spanish that can understand English so that you can say to them what's needed to get to your spouse. And that's kind of what we're doing today, right now. I'm being a translator on behalf of both parties through me dissecting this story, the things that my gifting, they're so apparent to me. Very, very apparent to me. But it's my job that when I see it as being a parent, but I can tell that someone can't, it means that I'm there to unveil it so that they can understand and see what's going on. So did I answer your question in that long, drawn
You
out?
you did, and you hit on so many points that are enriching this conversation. Let's start with charades, because
Ah,
that one, that one ended up being, and I think you're getting downloads too from this. I mean, I know you're
uh,
gifting, so I know you're getting downloads. So, one of the things after the whole weekend being stressful for everybody, that my husband and I came back and bonded over
mm,
after the fact, when she was home and comfortable,
so
was
that's what I'm talking about.
he said, trying to communicate with her, and then we've been in other nursing homes as well, and trying to communicate with other people with aphasia. It's like playing charades. And I said, yes, it is. And it made us laugh because the night before, she was trying so hard to recall a memory. Now, I've heard the woman's stories for 24 years. They're the same stories. They never change. So I was able to actually figure out what she was going with. But at first, and she's trying to say Cheryl, New York. It's a city.
Uh,
And so I was like, I know where she's been. So I was like, Manlius, Morrisville, Casnovia, Fayetteville. And she went, Cheryl. And I was like, damn it, I was almost there. I was going to get there. So we turned it into a game. And she does
yeah,
laugh.
yeah,
She
yeah,
does laugh. She
yeah,
understands that I'm
yeah.
really trying. And my husband did crack up at that one too. He was like, okay, so this is kind of a game. And then I want to share this with you as well that tacks onto this. What you said about my husband is absolutely true. And of course, there's a lot more to him, like there is to all of us. One of the things that he will tell you is not necessarily his strong suit is patience and seeking to understand. I think he would describe it as he doesn't really have the patience to understand what somebody's needs are. He assesses the situation, makes a decision, that's it. He's so freaking rigid sometimes where I'm over here like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Life is not black and white. And sometimes we do need to listen and pay attention. So since they were having such a difficult time, he was actually stressing her out, and then she was stressing him out. And I'm like, I'm going to separate you two. Honey, go build something. Get out of here. And I took out Trouble, and we played Trouble. And Trouble is perfect. It's a brain game for somebody with a stroke like that. So she played that. Don't you know that woman kicked my butt 4 times in a row? Didn't even reminded me of the rules. Kept saying, oh no, 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 you get to go again. I'm like, there we go. And I told her, I said, Sandy, look how good you're doing. Because she said, I hated school. What she means is right after her stroke for that first year, she ended up having to go through puzzle games and brain games with her daughter. Her daughter wasn't the right teacher for her. It probably should have been me.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then my mother died 2 months after, and there was a lot going on with the family. In
yeah,
hindsight, we all agreed it probably should have been me with her because I find watching her brain fascinating, especially
yeah,
the parts that have atrophied that she doesn't have, that when she gets it out there, we
yeah,
celebrate together. I'm like, good job. Well, and
yeah,
you didn't give up. This
yeah, yeah.
woman, the whole time I've known her, while she hasn't always liked me, one thing I've respected about her is she's not the type of person to suffer in silence. If she's got a problem with you, she will seek you out on purpose and you will be made aware of that problem. It will not be graceful or kind at all, but it will be honest. And I've
Mm,
always respected that about her. I always knew where I stood with her then, and I know where I stand with her now. These are the things that I was trying, that I was hoping that with this one weekend we had with her, my husband could see this side of his mother because that's, yes, it is my opinion, but it's also my experience with him. That's lacking, and their relationship could be less stressful on both of them if they would try to, if he, because he has the ability, well, he might not. You're about to tell me maybe he might not. I feel like he also has the ability to get to know her in different ways than his black and white world. What do you think?
well, I think he has the ability, but you can't make your expectations of him taking advantage of the ability his. I think that's where the issue lies.
Hmm.
Your wants for him and their relationship are not his, and he could care less. Her
You are
proximity
right.
is enough
Wow.
for him. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we start to try to fight for our expectations of someone or what we feel would be beneficial to them, and we try to fight for that because we know how great that would be for them, but that's just not what they're into. And we have to be able to learn to accept that and say, okay, this is their dynamic and this is what he likes about it. And what I mean by that is just her proximity is enough, be it argument, conflict, or what have you. That's what he's concluded is the loving relationship between he and his mom. Now, oh, I love this. Oh, we're about to unpack some stuff.
Hmm.
Oh, we're about to unpack some stuff. Okay. All right. So let's do this. This is why it's imperative. So let me make this statement first. In laws are great for one reason only. And this is what we're about to
Hmm.
unpack. Because they're not necessary as it pertains to your relationship. So
Hmm.
let me please make sure that that is understood. You all are supposed to be creating your own dynamics, your own family, your own things, and they don't have any part in that. But what they are wonderful at, if you utilize them correctly, is understanding your partner and even understanding the dynamics of your relationship. So let's just unpack this. What you see your spouse doing in his engagement and interaction with his mom, which I just shared, you want it to pivot into something that you feel is more loving and more beneficial to him. But this is what he likes and he enjoys about he and his mom's dynamic. Whether you like it or not, your optics don't really matter. But I do need you to understand is that's the optics that he looks forward to you all having because he's concluded that that is a cool dynamic to have.
That
So
never even occurred to me.
when you see and sense that this is happening between you and him, that's actually the relationship that he's enjoying. Be it healthy or not, that is what he
That's messed
brings.
up.
That's what he's bringing to y'all's household. So to watch and observe a family the in-laws is what we'll call it,
Mhm.
is to watch and learn how your spouse or partner they process relationship and where they've learned relationship. So that is a wonderful opportunity not to watch and see how you can mend theirs, but to watch and see how you can understand what you probably have going on in yours.
Wow. That's actually that hits home on more than just this example. You're helping me to unpack and understand. Like, there's so many flashes now, memories of, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, there was that. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was that. And the ironic thing, this man visits his mother way more than I do. Way more. I might see her 4 or 5 times a year. He
Okay.
goes, well, for a while he was going every weekend, and then we got the truck, and so now
Yeah.
it might
Yeah.
be once a month. If it's longer than 1 month, he starts getting edgy about it. He's like, I gotta go see mom. And I've wondered
Mm,
over here, I'm like, why?
yeah.
Not because I'm trying to be a jerk, because
Yeah.
I understand he wants to see his mom. That's what people do. But I'm like, but why? You don't even really communicate
Enjoy.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. You say
why
you only
sign
say
up
he
for
only says
this?
about 3 words if anything or whatever. But go ahead.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But when you said proximity, it's the proximity of her that is enough for him. Wow, that really rings true. I never thought about it that way.
So, and that's what I mean. So, proximity for you, you might think, oh, well, he's not paying me attention or anything like that,
Mm,
but he's intentionally in your proximity. That
yep.
is to suggest that he enjoys you and he wants to be around you, because you know that to be true for his dynamic. It might not be his verbiage or him speaking, but his proximity suggests that he really, really likes you. And if he does that on with her on a weekend basis, but he's doing that with you on a daily basis. Like, hey, I just need to sense you near. That is him showing what it is that he likes. We can learn so much from the relationships that we have, and to take that a step further, also friendships. Those people that the friends that you're now. This is going to be hard for some people to swallow because I added friends to this equation. If your partner has a friend that they intentionally seek time to spend with them and you don't like them, you don't like your partner
Mm.
because
This
they're
is where
seeking that type of environment because that is them. That is their peaceful comfort place. That you are who you hang with. And if they're intentionally hanging with that person, they're not being that way around you, but they're getting their release from being around them because that's who
mm,
they are.
this one harkens us back to, I mean, I'm glad about this actually. I'd like to continue elaborating this for listeners. This is one area that even me as a non, you're the expert here on no love and this experience. This is one area that I do offer when asked to young couples or newlyweds, even older couples that are newlyweds, that be mindful of the friendships. For my husband, he had a lot of them when we met, and he played
Yeah.
volleyball 3 times a week, and he's a very active man. To this day, 57 years old, physically very active. So
Wow.
I knew then never to get onto him about his friends because I also knew
Yeah.
that this man, if I made him, would be happy to choose. I wouldn't win that.
Mm.
So I married him and his friends and
Wow.
his
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just
Well, certainly.
him.
Yeah.
So I like that you brought that up because I don't think that's spoken about enough in some circles.
Yeah. Now and see, and again, they can have, and that's why the caveat about that statement is if they seek to hang with them often. There could be friends
Mhm.
that they have that you don't like, but they don't hang around them often. That could
Yep.
just be there's something about when we were kids. I kind of feel like I gotta be in this person's life. I gotta make sure I'm available. There's
Hmm.
touches here and there, but it's not somebody that they're seeking to hang with. If they're seeking to hang with them, though, that is who they are. But if
Mm.
they are just a friend that I'm not really, I've heard the stories about Jim or Bob or Vicky or Darlene, and I don't like her for you. But every class reunion or something, you all link up. That's something totally different. If this person always wants to be around a person that you don't like, that is who your partner is. So while you're saying you don't like him or her, you're really saying you don't like your partner because that's really who they are when they're gone.
What if somebody argues back with, well, now hold on, Edward. I'm in love with my partner. Actually, I agreed to marry this woman or this man. I agreed to be with them. I don't have, please, that's actually too strong for me, Edward. I don't have to, please don't put on, what would they say? Please don't put on me that I don't like my spouse because I don't like their friends. That's not fair. What would you say to that?
Well, I'd say a couple things. For one, ask what did I say was the equation, and I would need feedback. Are we saying that they hang out with them all the time, or are we saying the alternate? What I just said
All the
that
time. Yep, all the time. And you
so if they
also
hang out
followed
with
up
them.
with, if they hang out with them all the time and you don't like them, then you don't like your spouse or
Oh,
partner,
okay.
whatever.
I said, well, I'll say I don't like the summertime because it gets too hot, but because I don't like it doesn't change that it's true. It's probably what I'd start with.
Yeah, fair.
I
That's actually
don't
something
say
to say.
things to try to convince people. I'm not interested
Yeah,
in convincing anyone anything. I share what I share. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not trying to fight you to get you to learn or agree with me. That would mean I don't even agree with me. See, people who don't, I'll put it to you this way. Would you argue back and forth with someone that 4 plus 4 is 8 when they believe that it's 10? Would you sit there and put a whole bunch of energy into that?
you
All
know I
right.
wouldn't, but I don't know. Some people might.
I've
I don't like the
never
pressure.
found a person who said yes to that answer,
Yeah,
which suggests to me that when you know without a shadow of a doubt something, you won't waste your time trying to convince someone else of that.
fair. Yeah,
But when you're
yeah,
not sure and you need validation from someone else about what it is that you believe, that's when you try to fight to get an agreement. I don't need agreements. I'm
fair.
aware of what it is that I'm saying. And what you do with that, it's up to you. I'm in meetings and people get uncomfortable because they ask me what my thoughts are about things. I share, and then they'll give me, as you shared, a rebuttal or what about this? I'll say, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm not here to change your mind. If you all conclude that this is what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. You asked me what my thoughts were. I shared them. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. You understand where I stand. And I'm not
hmm
interested in getting you to stand where I stand. That's where I stand. You asked me for my opinion. I didn't ask you for yours. You shared
yeah.
yours. I listened and then I gave you my opinion after you asked for mine. And that's where I would sit. I don't need you to buy into anything.
Do you ever get where sometimes, like in those kind of situations, I'm just curious now,
No, that's fine.
where you find that people are like they're not really looking for your agreement more than your assessment is they're looking for your validation. Do you ever experience that in those
I think
situations?
that's the same thing.
Is it?
It's the
You think
same
so?
thing.
Okay.
Again, you're going back to, all right, he did not agree with me. So let me go ahead and or share a little bit more. This
Right.
this is, oh my gosh, I'm glad we're doing this. You see, I done shifted my
I know.
posture
You've been
and
all
chair and
excited over
everything,
that. I'm gonna
right?
shift too. I'm there.
All right. So where was I headed with this? This is where conflict comes into play. We think, and this actually ties in everything we talked about, raising your voice when they can't even understand what you're saying in a whisper because you actually need a translator, right? So the problem is we think and we assume that if you really heard me, you'd agree with me.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah,
the
I think that's
problem.
true. Yeah. Yeah,
So
wow.
what we do is we'll yell, we'll try to give you all of this evidence so that you could really hear me. And once you really hear me, then you'd agree with me.
Yeah,
I'm
wow.
wise enough to know that I will not be agreed on even if you hear me, which is why I'll take the time to do this. And I always tell people in a relationship to do this. For one, I'll seek clarity. If you do something that is offensive to me or that I don't like that you did to me, so that I can assess our relationship, what I'm going to say is this is how I took what you said or didn't say, or what you did or you didn't do, is that how you intended for me to receive it? Now I have an opportunity to learn what your intent was behind what you said. 9 times, and I say nine, probably 9.9 times out of 10, they're like, whoa, that was way off. This is what I meant or what I was thinking when I said this. And now I have just learned, again, the depth from conflict, how you actually love me, but I just don't have a view or lens that you do. But I also adopted a new lens from you because you shared how you're presenting that information that way was for me to receive it, and I was way off base. That is an opportunity. That is depth in a relationship, and that actually helps me in the future to question whether the things that I think that are negatively attacking me from you, it'll make me step back a little bit and say, hold on, wait, let me check this because I'm not receiving it right. But I don't think that he or she would do this to me. Let me ask this again. And again, that's where more depth comes from because of conflict. But when you avoid it and you just assume that he or she was wrong because of this thing called common sense that I brought up earlier, now I'm walking with a fence that's not validated or clarified, and it's not even a truth. And now we have friction that you don't even know of because I didn't give you opportunity to clarify and grow in this. So I say all that to say that it's important to get clarity when it is time for you to have an exchange, and when it we assume, oh, that's where I was headed. I apologize. So when I get asked what it is that, or when I realize someone says that, or they're saying to themselves that I clearly can't hear them, because if I did, I agree. What I would do is I will find an anecdote to share that's different from the circumstance, but identical to the essence of what it is that they're trying to get me to understand. Share that anecdote slash story with them, or example, or analogy, or life moment that I had that aligns with that. And after I share that story, I say, now, with that being said, I still don't agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I will share a story that's different from what we're actually having to help you understand that, oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with you. So
Yeah.
now you cannot confuse me hearing from agreeing, and you know I just do not subscribe to your philosophy on this particular thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That I've been through that with my husband throughout the years so many times. No, honey, I heard you.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I just don't agree with what you said. And agreement doesn't equate hearing. And actually, I understand you too. See, I can understand and
Yes.
hear you. I can do both of those,
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
don't agree. So I get to actually do all three of them
I can
all at the same
understand,
time. Yep.
empathize,
Yep.
have
Share a
compassion
story,
for what
have compassion.
exactly. And
Yep.
I still don't agree with you.
And I still don't agree with you. Yeah, that is one of the biggest challenges that I experience, not just with him, but with others. Very few. You're aware of my social circle. The friends are family and family.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't just, what we're doing. Is quite unique. We met God wanted us to meet, and I'm
Amen to
glad we
that.
have this
Yeah.
relationship. So typically, I don't just put myself out there like this. Most of the time, it's because of that. It is so exhausting because I have such empathy for people and I can feel when they're upset, or I can even tell if I'm crying, those aren't my tears. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
they're upset because it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
So
most
it's a
certainly.
lot of input. So it's
Yeah,
a lot of work
most
to
certainly.
have those kind of conversations. And most of the time, back to your analogy, the 4 + 4 equals 10. I'm just not going to spend the time doing it. It's too much energy.
No, no. I realize I've done my due diligence to verify if it is that you're hearing or understanding. Oh, and I conclude, okay, well, he or she's not there yet. It's time to pivot, change
Mhm.
topics, change discussions, but I'm definitely not here to convince you or to change your mind. That's not my job. Never will that be.
Mm.
Nor is my energy is worth so many better things than for me to try to get someone to change their mind. I don't have time.
There's age-old wisdom in that. I believe spiritual wisdom in that. I remember asking my mother years ago, sat her down for a quiet moment, and oh, my brain was thinking about something. I was chewing on something that day, as usual. And I was thinking about the past, and I'm like, I wasn't actually, I don't think, the easiest child for this woman. And I certainly wasn't the easiest teenager, but what teenager's really easy anyway?
Yeah, yeah,
And I asked her, I'm like, Mom, how come you sat there so calmly and I would just run my mouth and share my opinions and, but why this? And no, it should be like that. And this should, and I'm going to tell you how the world works. You don't have to tell me. How could you put up with all of that? And she just calmly smiled at me in that mama way. And she was like, you just weren't there yet. That's
yeah,
okay. And I
yeah,
was like, well, I felt such love from that
yeah.
interaction. It changed the way, it brought me to where we are now. It changed the way I interacted with other people, where I decided, if I'm going to expend that kind of energy, let's make sure it can come from love. Let's make sure it's not fake.
Most certainly. Not to mention,
Yeah.
you you understand where that person is. Like, we'll try to cut them off and try to get them to pivot and take our side, as opposed to acknowledging and realizing where they are and understanding, okay, though, well, this is how I need to communicate to him or her, as opposed to trying to bring them to this place that you are, not even considering how long it took you to get there.
Mm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's the dangerous thing about knowing,
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that you didn't.
Mm.
Um, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry you brought up something. I hate that I stepped on you on that one. I
It's
love
okay. It's all
letting you
right.
go,
It's
because it's
okay.
such good stuff. Wow, I haven't thought about Kameen in forever. I had this mentor early on. I was 19. My first real job was
Yeah.
as a web developer at Gateway Computers, which no one knows about anymore, but it used to be huge. It was a global company. It was a big deal. And Kameen, oh my God, this woman, I still to this day admire her. I don't have word. If I try to describe how much I admire her, it will reduce the feelings that I have in
Wow. Yeah.
admiring
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
was not
Words
only
aren't
the,
adequate.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but this is a fact. She was not only the first. She served in the Navy. She was not only the first black pilot. She was the first female pilot. So she had two in a world that did not happen. It just didn't happen. And the reason I share that, because she wouldn't like that I ended that there, is she was the underperformer in her family. Both of her older siblings became doctors and PhDs. She was the slacker in her family, and and she went down the coding route. So again, I was sharing an opinion about something. There was a project manager. Somebody was probably annoying me. It didn't take much in those days for me to get annoyed as a programmer. I just wanted to be left alone, doing this all day.
Yeah.
And she looked at me with the same love that you're sharing here, and she said, "Keep in mind, you never know where you're meeting somebody in their day." And I went, wow, maybe I can show a little grace.
Most
Maybe I
certainly.
can. Now, I didn't know how.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the seed, but it was something that stayed with me to this day. And you are reminding me of her, and I appreciate you for that.
Oh wow. No. I
Yeah.
love you
Mm,
to death.
mm.
You know,
Likewise.
sis.
Likewise.
But yeah, I've been in so many predicaments like that where, as you shared, I shared grace only to find out that they lost their mother or something that day,
Yeah.
or something happened
Yeah.
to where they were even thinking suicidal thoughts. And I'm so
Mm.
grateful
And
that
it's
I
like,
was not the
dang.
word or the statement that took them over the edge,
Mm-hmm.
because I was patient with them and just considerate. But again, remembering, that's one thing I'm appreciative of, is remembering. I never get to a place where I've learned or I'm aware of certain things to where I look down on someone that does not know what it is that I know. Not to mention, I take a lot of time to consume information. And to be quite honest with you, it humbles me because the more I learn, the dumber I feel.
Mm.
Whereas
Relate to that.
oftentimes it's different for other people. People learn a lot and they think that they've arrived and they think they're so wise, but I don't. My insides, my setup is not like that. It typically is the opposite of most people. But when I learn stuff, I feel so dumb. So I read more.
Yeah.
It makes me feel more dumb.
Yeah. I've said over the years, the more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah, most certainly. Yes. Yeah, that's
You
so,
know?
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so I'm consistently consuming and learning, but more intentional about being diverse in my learning so that I can literally have the lens of so many people to where I can be considerate of what you might be saying that I did not know had I not tapped into your culture, tapped into your eyes, tapped into your lens, tapped into your profession, tapped into whatever it is that would prevent me from being able to be compassionate or empathize with your situation or circumstance to where I can share that anecdote that helps you to understand that you were heard but just not agreed with.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do it beautifully. I mean, you've done it with, I feel like you and I have had a shorthand in some things and then much deeper dives and obviously a lot more to go. I
Yeah.
hope, in the course of our relationship. That's one thing that I can attest personally with you, and one of the many reasons that I'm so thrilled we get to do this together is your ability to exhibit compassion and love, especially when you don't agree with me. Those are the moments that
Wow.
that allowed me to trust you, actually.
Wow.
I don't need you to agree with me all the time, but I did need to know that you're honest. And you do that really well. You do it in
Now,
spades.
now, now, ironically, isn't that how we
Mhm.
started? I said I look for
Yeah.
opportunities. And
Yeah.
you said now, how often would you hear that someone you gain trust from someone that disagree with you? It's not common. But
Hmm.
again, that's the only evidence that you can have that someone can be trustworthy is if they disagree with you at some point in time.
Yeah.
Even when they come to me and they say they're engaged and they're ready to be married and they want me to help them with their premarital coaching or counseling. And I'll ask them, it's a very simple question to me. Have you all had a disagreement or a fight yet? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then y'all aren't ready to be
Run.
married. Not ready
Yeah.
to be married. You don't,
Mm.
I'm sorry, but you don't know your partner if you all have not had a disagreement. You
Yeah.
can't know them. You don't even know how they feel about you until they're angry with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
You
you hear some stuff if that's really because you hear truth when they get emotionally upset with you. You will hear stuff that's been festering and sitting for a while, but you also will realize where you've come when you can get upset with them, but you don't think negative things about them. You don't have terrible things to say or spew at them when you're upset with them. You're just upset.
yeah. And that's a beautiful place to be. This brings us full circle, actually, to how the weekend resulted and started. That
Yeah.
there is still reminding me that, and I really appreciate you for this too, allowing insights into my husband from a male's point of view, and especially from your point of view, was really vital to me. As long as I've been with this man, everything you're saying, I know is true. But the
Mm.
fact that you know it's true meant a lot to me because I get
Wow.
to share these stories, but I'm picking stories so that we can have communication about it in this realm. What I'm not sharing, which you allowed me to share, are all the good things too. My husband has, and he's an amazing man, and
Yeah, yeah,
and how much I
yeah.
respect him, and this is the kind of man that when he barks, I do listen because I'm like, ooh, ooh, slow your
Yeah.
roll there, Tiger. All right, I'm a little more sensitive. Okay, so so you're helping with that. And then I also, the fact that you mentioned proximity to his mom or proximity to me, you are right. This man is very choosy about who he hangs around with, as much as I am. We have that in common. And he from day one has approved of you and our friendship and our relationship and
Mm.
encourages this
Yeah, yeah,
podcast and asks about what we're talking about
yeah.
because I believe that even though you guys have never met, you have yet to meet, you will. I believe you already know and love him the way that a
Mm.
close friend can know and love him, and you haven't even
Yeah,
met him
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
And I think that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and it was through our indirect disagreements. And like I remember you've
Yeah.
preserved things that he just did not agree with. And I'm like, man, tell me what the man said. And
You
when it
were too,
was
you're like,
shared,
just get it out there. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this today.
and and I loved him the more after learning what it is that he shared. And I'm like, that first, I'm like, that is not even offensive. That
Yeah.
actually compliments what it is. But again, when I say it all the time, when you come from a place or you're looking through life through the lens of trauma, things that come to you are traumatic.
Mm.
I've lived through, and through is the operative word, a life of trauma to where things are not traumatic to me.
Mhm.
They're just things to assess, process to learn who it is that I'm in exchange with, find out where they are, and then have an opportunity to learn how they got there so that I can then find a common ground that allows for us to go on a journey together. Be it if they want to get from there to if they just want to understand why they are. And either one I'm perfectly okay with, because to understand yourself, that is so liberating. That is so freeing, to understand who you are, why you tick, what makes you tick, how you can be taken advantage of because of that, so that you can avoid that happening. That is a powerful thing, but also to have an opportunity to meet yourself, so that you will also have an opportunity to love yourself.
Mm,
So, and also to know and understand that though those external things influence who you might be now, you can either alter your external environment to change yourself to who you want to be, or you can identify that and say, hey, now that I know that something influenced it, I can combat that and just change my mind. It's so many variables that can come as a result of just knowing. But the problem is, most of the time, we're not knowing. We are just existing, which is why we're able to be influenced to and fro. We don't have direction, and someone can get us to do the things that they want us to do because we don't even realize what we're doing.
I can't even follow up with that. I think that's a beautiful way to wrap this one up. That was gorgeous. Nicely done.
I just love people.
Mm,
I love the opportunity that love gives people,
mm, yeah,
because it's
yeah,
such a change agent to yourself, which bleeds over to so many other people actually experiencing it, to where they can be impacted by it, to where even if it's for a few seconds, it can make them question their negative viewpoint, their dark
yeah.
thoughts, their dark feelings about things, and that's it.
Well, then I'll follow up with this thing here, the dark feelings, dark thoughts. So
Mm,
you know, especially going through trauma. We all have our
mhm,
baggage, every single person, without exception. And I like to
mhm.
remind people that we're all here once, and none of us is getting out of here alive. So, we're gonna come in with drama and baggage, and we're gonna leave. We're gonna
Yeah,
leave it right here
yeah,
when
yeah,
we leave.
yeah,
I think it is exactly what you're saying is what you do with it in the middle. That's really, we have a choice for how it impacts us. We can choose how we react or respond to it.
yeah.
And we do get to choose to have further insights into who we are, because I can also attest to what you're saying, where especially my life before the truck was as a hacker and a
Mhm.
developer.
Yeah.
I've seen so human we are, as humans, we are so fragile and so creative and so strong and so powerful and capable of the most atrocious evils and the most beautiful, awe-inspiring love, all in the same person. And
Yeah.
having seen how people react and exist in trauma that never get out of that those are the stories that make my heart hurt. Those are the ones that I want to say, come and know love. Come
Mm.
and learn about Brother Edward. Come and learn about God and read scripture. You can get out of this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so and yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm underscoring because having seen the worst parts of humanity as well, what we're doing here is it's actually, I think, life changing and in some cases probably life saving.
Wow. Honestly, so that's an added thing to what I shared earlier about remembering. I
Mm,
was the dark side of humanity
mm-hmm,
for probably the first third of my life.
mm-hmm,
But I did not forget that.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is, yeah, I'm over here on this other side, but I remember who I was, which means that there's a chance for anyone to evolve into a better person if I had the opportunity, or if I was able to become who I am today. There's so many people who see me or encounter me that knew me
Mm-hmm.
from way back when, and I am evidence that there is, for one, a living God, and that Whom is forgiven much loves much. And when I come to that realization that I've been forgiven, I've done some terrible things. I've done terrible things. And to know that I've been forgiven, how dare I judge someone? How dare how dare I not try to understand where they're coming from when I can articulate where I was coming from when I was a negative and dark person and I treated people terrible. So I just, for one, want to be a billboard of hope for someone that thinks that there's no way that I could be a better person. And I also want them to understand the superpower that comes as a result of tapping into the true and authentic essence of love. Because once you get there, oh my gosh, it's so much lighter.
Yeah.
It's so much free access to this just hug that's waiting on you. And I'll put a period right there because I'll go on a tangent about this thing
Mm,
called love and just
mm.
forgiveness and realizing that it's accessible to you and anyone. And that's why you get so taken aback by me when you share what this person did, and then I follow with, well, what happened to them? And you're like, wait, what? Wait, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has a lot to do with it. I understand, and I promise you, what they did was horrific. It's terrible, but that was not birthed out of nothing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I want to
Yeah.
know and understand so that while I'm trying to put this person back together that has been a victim of it, that I don't ignore the victim of the person that became uh, the person that made them a victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can help both of them, not just one.
I love it. And also, as a reminder, I can't, on one hand, know that there is an all knowing, all loving God who created imperfection, and then also tell him, except for me, he was wrong about me. I don't get to do
Wow.
that.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's big coming from you.
I hope other people
That
hear that.
that's big coming from you, sis.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got it on record.
Good guide. You've been a good guide. Now I ain't gonna be perfect, Edward. You're still the eloquent speaker, and I'm impatient, and I'm excitable, and I want what I want, and I do what I do, and people are very frustrating, and you're a giant help through all of that stuff.
And I'm glad to be it because you are wonderful soil to pour seed into. You're excellent soil. You might not feel that way at times, but I see it. And just to watch the different things germinate and sprout and blossom from you, it's so fulfilling to watch.
Oh,
So you're definitely not time that I feel is wasted. It's always a great
good.
investment.
The desire is to be hopeful. If I can phrase it in
Oh,
this way, the desire is to be hopeful and helpful to others.
yeah. So, any last words
Well,
for this topic of in-laws?
in-laws, spouses, well, and family expectations.
Hmm.
Uh, my final thought on this one for now is no matter what conflict other people may or may not be going through with their spouses and their in-laws and family expectations, I think it is important to first pause and look inside. You know, my desire to help my mother-in-law uh, came from love for her.
Yeah.
It was not intentional to go against my husband or ignore what his commitment was, and so we were able to navigate that and meet somewhere. It ended up working out fine, and I hope others can do the same thing. First, start with themselves. What are they saying? Why are they saying it? And where does it come from?
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Perfect. That's wonderful. I'll conclude by saying conflict is opportunity.
Mm,
It's a marker to tell you where you are as it pertains to your relationship, where you are in your communication. In your case, it was an opportunity for one to see how you've been speaking about this woman up until this point to where the reflex was not necessarily a great one. So now we got to assess, okay, I got to start doing a little bit better with my communication positively about this young lady so
yes.
that when I do bring her name up, it's not assumed that that is the case. So again, it's a marker. It lets you see yourself if you take the time to try to see yourself as opposed to trying to help someone else see what you think that they can get out of what you see is beneficial for them. You can also learn that this is what they're actually trying to bring as a dynamic to my household. So instead of me being offended by it, I can actually appreciate it because that's what they learn love is, and they're trying to bring that here. But even with that, I can share or add what it is that I have that can balance that and make it better while I'm appreciating it. Not to mention, now I can self assess and say, hey, what is it that my family side is being brought to this relationship that I'm trying to put on him that I think is
Hmm.
supposedly a great thing that might not be so great. It could just be cultural because I saw it being done this way, but it's not
Yeah,
necessarily a good thing. Just like I realized that what he or she is bringing to this relationship was not necessarily healthy, but it is what they assume love to be. So conflict is not bad if you process it correctly. It can be terrible if you are intentionally allowing it to destroy you or being looked at with the improper lens, which the improper lens will always be anything that is opposite of love. It could be
love
fear,
that.
it could be hate, that could be again trauma. So that's all we got. I really really appreciate your minds and time, the comments, the feedback, the calls, the anticipation of the next episodes have been wonderful to Miss Charlene and I. She can tap in if she wants to add to that, but she's
I
expressed
do
to
on
me.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I do on that
we
one
just
because
appreciate y'all. We love y'all and we appreciate you all taking the time to take this journey with us. And we will
mhm,
continue to share as much as or as long as you all continue to listen.
yeah, we will. And I want to thank, I don't know the the wonderful people that Edward knows or that he's hearing. It's not, he's the face. So, but I thank you from my heart. I really, Edward and I have a deep dive in our relationship, but I wasn't sure if I could be helpful and useful. And that's what I said to him. And sometimes I find people difficult. So the fact that you guys are saying, Edward, when is the next one? That's helping. If I'm helping and I can be of service, that's awesome. But I can only do it with Edward. I'm not doing this by myself. So thank you guys.
Well, until we meet again, we love you and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Y'all be
That's
safe.
right. Be safe. Bye, guys.
Bye.